Committee of Commerce and Labor to order, and let's take care of a little bit. I'm going to need to reconsider Senator Sturtevant's bill we sent out of here because I do have a hook that is supposed to have been sent to Finance, so Chair would entertain a motion. Okay, I hear. Oh, it's called a roll, sorry. We just recessed. No roll call required. Okay, I have a motion properly second to reconsider a vote by which we reported Senate Bill 1763. Clerk, open the rolls. Okay, the bill's before us again. Chair would now entertain a motion to report the bill and re-refer to Committee of Finance.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1763 with all the rest of the bills piled in be reported and re-referred to Committee of Finance. Clerk, open the rolls.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, up. Yes.
I apologize. I just walked in the door, but why? There's no financial impact?
We've been told by Finance staff, first of all, I have a letter, and that's usually all the why I need is a letter from the chairman of the Finance Committee.
I see a lot of letters.
Secondly, I've been told that the balance billing is currently written that we discussed earlier in the committee does have a significant state fiscal impact, which I was concerned with when I presented my other bill, which the committee chose not to adopt, but instead sent Senator Sturtevant's bill forward because it does have apparently a significant fiscal impact to the state health insurance policy. So for those two reasons, we have a motion properly supported to report and re-refer to Committee of Finance. Clerk, open
Mr. Chairman.
Up. Senator Sproul.
Senator Sturtevant, does he agree to this?
I'm sorry?
Senator, does he agree with this? What's going on? I'm like John. I'm trying to figure out what kind of impact, but the senator who has his bill, does he agree?
I will, as I understand it, first of all, I got a letter, and that's kind of been involatile. But secondly, the way that the balance billing language was structured, and I think Mr. Gray pointed it out, allows for an opportunity to have significantly, although balance billing won't occur to the patient, might have significant impact, fiscal impact to the cost of emergency room services. Hence, because the state offers health insurance to well over 100,000 Virginians, could have a significant impact to the state budget. That is still being determined, and that's why it needs to go to Senate Finance. Okay, we have a motion properly supported. Is there any other discussion? Clerk, open the roll. I'm still voting for you. You haven't revoked your proxy, but you're covered. Okay, close the roll.
13 ayes, 2 nays.
Okay, that bill is on its way to Finance. Okay, I have a...
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would like to be kept apprised of what's happening with that bill as it journeys through Senate Finance. We all know what happens to some bills in Senate Finance. I'm a little perturbed about this. I'd just like to basically have an ongoing report of what's happening to the bill. Please. Thank you.
I will be happy. I think it'll be posted on Legislative Services, but you can certainly follow it this afternoon. We're going to take this up this afternoon?
I can see if we can get it on.
The chairman says they'll try to put it on the docket this afternoon. If not, it'll be on the docket Friday. Okay. Moving forward, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Senate Bill 1010. Pretty straightforward. We have dealt with a tremendous problem of Lyme disease, particularly in Northern Virginia, but it really extends across the state and across a number of states. As the cases have been treated, it appears that in many cases, unless you catch this very, very early, the only real way of dealing with it is an antibiotic therapy that goes on for more than just a single dose. And what this does is that it requires health insurance policies to cover long-term antibiotic therapy as determined medically necessary. And I will just tell you that I am generally adamantly against expansions of necessary insurance coverage, but there are so many stories of people who are sincerely and desperately afflicted by this, and very many cases where they are successfully treated through long-term antibiotic therapy, and that essentially is the bill, and I recommend approval.
Okay. Senator Black, has this been heard by the Health and, by the Mandated Benefits Commission, do you know?
No, it has not.
Okay, typically, when we have a new mandated benefit, we send it to that committee. I would have to refer to Mr. Gray. Senator Stewart asked a question, isn't this covered already?
Mr. Chairman, the only reason I asked that question, typically you get 30 days of antibiotics for Lyme's disease. Only reason I know this because my wife and my son both had it last summer, and I had the pleasure of having Rocky Mountain spotted fever. But it was all paid for.
Where the hell do you live?
In Virginia, Northern Virginia.
All right.
That was right after he got that rattler bite on his foot.
Let's try
Well,
to
and this-
focus on the issues.
When you do catch it early, which is what you want to do, you give it a treatment like that, it knocks it out, and you're good to go. It's very successful if you catch it early. But there are a number of people who don't. There's a characteristic, kind of a bullseye pattern that's made, but it's only made for a certain number of bites. Sometimes a person will get it and there's a streak or there's a blotch or something that's not very identifiable. And those people, they don't have a tip-off, and sometimes they'll go months and months. By the time it's caught, that 30-day antibiotic treatment just doesn't work. So that's what this is about.
Okay. All right. Mr. Gray.
The answer to the question is that, yes, it would be covered. I think the question with the language of the bill is that I think if it goes beyond what, for example, the FDA recognizes as appropriate and effective, then it might be a new obligation. So, I mean, but you're right. I mean, normal treatment, we would normally cover it. So I'm not sure why the bill would be necessary, but.
Okay, well, it certainly would represent a new mandate. I'm not quite sure I'm following it either. So, Senator Black, typically when we have a new mandate like this, we have a commission set up solely to figure out if we're adding new requirements and doing those things. And so with the recommendation that we send a letter to the Mandated Healthcare Benefit Commission to study this issue to see if there's ample coverage, the chair would entertain a motion to pass the bill by indefinitely. It's been moved and seconded that the bill be passed by indefinitely. Clerk, open the rolls. You can revoke your powers. Okay.
9 ayes, 6 nays.
All right. Thank you, Senator
Okay,
Black.
thank you very much.
Okay. And believe it or not, I got the last three of them, and I'm going to make a motion that we roll my Senate Bill 1353 into the Bonafide Association. Apparently, I got so excited I put two bills like that in. So try to get rid of my 25 limit by just replicating bills and putting them in. So with that explanation, I would move that we roll 1353 into the block that was represented by Senate Bill 1689. Clerk, open the rolls. Okay, that one's off the list. Okay, I do have one that was referred to me from Senate Health and Ed, Senate Bill 1759. In the interest of expediency, half the bill's already covered, and I've agreed to strike this, the portion of COPN. Not having an ego, I will move to strike my own bill, Senate Bill 1359. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We strike Senate Bill 1359. Clerk, open the rolls. Okay, and that leaves us with our last bill, Senate Bill 1362, which deals with balance billing on ancillary services. And I'm going to ask Chrissy to explain the difference between this bill, and I would ask, first of all, the motion to adopt the substitute. Senator Norman moves and Senator Newman seconds that we adopt substitute to Senate Bill 1362. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, by vote to 0 to 2 or 1 to 2, the substitute's adopted. Chrissy, if you would now explain the difference between this bill and the other bill.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Sturtevant's Bill 1763 that you all just voted on, that bill did address out-of-network services, ancillary services. However, it did not prevent balance billing for ancillary services. It just had a notice requirement for those services. Senator Sturtevant's bill would apply to ancillary services provided at any facility, so that would include services provided by a hospital, but that bill did not prevent balance billing for ancillary services. Senator Wagner's bill, Senate Bill 1362, with the substitute you have in front of you, would prevent balance billing of ancillary services provided at facilities that are not hospitals if the proper notice requirements are met. The notice requirements in Senator Wagner's bill are more robust than the requirements under Senator Sturtevant's bill for ancillary services. They are required to be in writing, and an out-of-network provider is required to provide a good faith cost estimate of what the out-of-network service will cost, the ancillary out-of-network service will cost. And if they fail to do that, then they cannot balance bill the covered person for the services that are provided.
Okay.
Also, Senator Wagner's bill would require direct payment from the health carrier to the provider.
Okay, to understand what we're doing here is basically saying a more informed patient about if they're going out of network and providing at least a good faith written estimate of that. I think the original bill that I looked at basically said all they needed to do was inform the patient in that stack of papers that you end up signing when you go in to see the doctor. And even if you, in 5 days in a row, they act like it's the first time you walked in and you sign the same stack of papers you always do. I doubt any single person up here read anything in those papers other than to get through to do it. So this really allows the patient to be informed of any additional expenses that he might be liable for over and above. So that's what the bill does.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
how would this work if you were in a situation, not an emergency, you're sending something out that's time-sensitive, a pathological report? How is that pathologist supposed to get this notice back to you when they might not even be aware it's coming, and that sample will expire within 24 or 48 hours?
It's a good question. And
Mr. Chairman, I'll even enlarge the question. I mean, does this pertain to emergency rooms?
no, that we already have dealt with the emergency rooms in a previous legislation. Okay. Well, Senator McDougall, I'm not sure that I can answer your question. Perhaps is there Mr. Gray or Mr. Johnson?
I was.
Oh,
Go on, Scott.
you're a target of opportunity. Mr. Gray.
Actually, the author is Mr. Johnson and Mr. Whitehead.
And Mr. Whitehead.
Explain what you
You handed me that piece of paper, and all I
Mr.
did
Chairman.
was tighten some language up about written, so perhaps you need to edify Senator McDougall.
Yes, sir. Cal Whitehead for the Virginia Society for Pathology. And we worked closely with folks in the primary care setting who would be doing most of these referrals, and tried to get to a place where we had a specific signed notice that would go to the patient upon being referred. That patient could request an estimate from the out-of-network provider who would be providing those ancillary services. And if they failed to do so, then the patient would be held harmless on any balance bill. Mr. Chairman, Senator McDougall's question is a real concern for us. We believe that in order to provide efficient and timely care, and in many cases to prevent degradation of some sort of sample, whether it be blood or some other type of biopsied tissue, that this could disrupt that, and you would be delaying care unnecessarily, in some cases, perhaps dangerously.
Well, let me ask a question then. Would the physician know that he's sending that to a lab that's out of network?
Mr. Chairman, we believe that in many cases they might not. And so we believe that a notice that states that the patient should check with their carrier and could also contact the place where they're referred to ask those questions. But there's no way, and I think there are folks here from the primary care community that could answer that better than I could, but that's a challenge because you're asking one provider to be able to confirm the existence of a contract by another provider and a third party.
And I can see the dilemma, but once again, so the patient is supposed to say, okay, I'm going to take a blood sample. I'm supposed to ask the nurse who drew the blood out of me what lab is going to this. And then I'm supposed to turn around and call my insurance company and it's saying it's going to XYZ lab. Am I covered? And then wait for the insurance company to get back to you. And then find out, no, wait a minute. You know, what lab should I be sending it to? And then tell the nurse and the rest of the office. Once again, we've run into that blood sample will probably be coagulated by the time that gets done.
Mr. Chairman.
Once again, the patient's still on the hook.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator McDougall.
The notice provision, I think, is fine, because if you give notice, all those things can still happen. But the requirement that third-party pathologist then give a return estimate about what the cost of that would be to somebody that they don't have a direct contact with, I don't think is tenable, because then we're saying, pathologist, you got to run these tests, but we can't tell you whether you're going to get paid or not, and who's going to pay you. So I'm very comfortable with the notice, and maybe in most other situations this will work, but with the pathologist, I don't see how that works.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Senator Spruill.
a couple of questions.
Certainly.
Number one, the first question is that I'm trying to understand if a doctor sent a patient to the hospital to do blood work as just a patient who may not have the same knowledge, sir, as you have, and so all she knows is her doctor sent her to get the blood work, then why are we putting this on the patient to do this necessary second step when I'm just going to get the blood work because my doctor sent me? Now, how am I to know all this other stuff that you're talking about?
Yes, sir. Senator Spruill and Mr. Chairman, that's part of the problem, and it's something we're trying to address by creating a more informed patient through a signed notice in the substitute minus the chairman's amendments and what's before you.
Second question, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Senator Spruill.
Then, so is this, if you're trying to fix it, that why would the patient have to deal with it at all? All I know, my doctor sent me to get some blood work. I don't want to do it. I'm doing what my doctor told me to do. Why is this not going to the doctor or somebody else instead of a patient who may not know what to do?
Yes.
Am I making sense on that, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Spruill, yes, sir, you are making sense, and that's something we're trying to get at. I think if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, there's folks here from primary care.
I want my question answered first. I don't care about them.
No, Mr. Chairman, Senator Spruill, I think they could answer your question better than I could because they're the referring doctor in this case that you're outlining.
Yes, sir.
Senator Overchain.
Cal, I hate to put you on the spot, but, you know.
Mr. Chairman, cool.
Senator.
Chill up, brother. I have my question answered.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Spruill.
I'm waiting
sorry,
for my question to be
I thought
answered.
you're done. Senator Spruill.
A question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Scott Johnson. Senator Spruill, I think the question here is there's obligations on the referring physician, there's obligations on the patient, and there's obligations on the out-of-network physician.
Yes, sir.
And we're trying to figure out who can best answer those questions under this structure. I mean, one of the things in this bill that is of concern that I think Senator McDougall brought up is if you look on line 64 and 65, you're asking your family doc who's referring you to a lab that's out of network to be able to give an estimate as to what that lab's going to charge to run the test. They don't know that today. It's the lab who knows what the costs are. Also, the way we had looked at wording this is if it is upon, the estimate is given upon request of a patient. Not every patient's going to want to know. But if you could say as a out-of-network lab, I can't run the analysis until I take the time to give an estimate to the patient, to Senator McDougall's point, that specimen may degrade where you can't run it. We had been looking at having an emergency exception in there as well. So structurally and operationally, that's the struggle we're at.
Okay, well, Cal, you handed me the substitute, or you handed me the bill. Is there a couple of words you'd like changed to get it back to where we got it? Or do we just want to tie this thing up and put it to bed here?
Well, sir, yeah, there are a couple of things we could take out of your bill that might address the issues, and I'll phone my friends to see if they can help me get each of them. First, the requirement that on line 64, that the referring physician or referring provider include an estimate of the out-of-network costs for such ancillary service. That was an area that we're afraid would be practically
Okay.
impossible.
All right,
for those.
so after service, put a period and strike the remainder of the sentence?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion on that amendment?
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that that amendment be adopted. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next. I mean, you guys handed me this bill, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask you on line 66 and 67, what I think is important is that the patient know they have a right to request an estimate. And if paragraph number 4 on line 66 could be worded such that informs the covered person that they have a right to request an estimate from the out-of-network provider, that will sync it up.
Mr. Chairman, that's my concern, Mr. Chairman, is that as a patient, if you get the elderly patient, why they do not know about this kind of stuff? So why are you having an elder person who's getting blood work to request something that they have no idea what they're talking about? So why can't it be so that they don't have to know? Let's get the blood work because they have been sent there by the doctor to do some blood work. So why are you requiring an elder person to request some information that they have no idea what it's about? They won't know what to do with it anyway. So why they can't do what the doctor say, get the blood work and go home, but why they got to worry about doing the second step of something they have no idea all about anyway?
Can you answer that?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a suggestion?
Mr. Gregg, yes.
I would suggest that this needs some more work, and on behalf of the payers, and I think the providers would be okay with this if we send it back to the HERC and had them take a look at it. Delegate Byron made an effort in a different body and ended up doing the same. It clearly needs more work, and it's just too challenging to figure it out on the fly, and I think that would be the right way to handle it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this bill be re-referred, actually passed by indefinitely and re-referred back to HERC Commission. Clerk, open the rolls.
Fifteen ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, and I believe that completes the docket, does it not? Okay, the committee will rise. 140.